You're listening to the RMPodcast, the official podcast of Red Moon Productions. Here are your hosts, Brandon Davidson, Keith Cheatham, and Sean Sebastian. Enjoy.
Welcome to another episode of the Red Moon Podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Brandon Davidson, alongside our normal new host, Sean Sebastian, whoopee, and Keith Cheatham. Look at it, he's got his star ready.
Turned into a block of wood.
It's like Laura Linney.
You can still see me in the frame.
Laura Linney got her star on the Hollywood Walk of
So
Fame.
believable. Who?
Laura Linney.
I don't know who that is.
She's Ozark.
I've never seen it.
Yeah, and I remember her distinctly from when my brother and sister-in-law would watch Downton Abbey.
I've never seen that either.
Yeah,
PBS.
Yeah. Name something I've seen her in.
Well,
Good
wait,
job.
She wasn't in Downton Abbey, but she was at the start of it, and she would say, "You're watching Masterpiece Theater on PBS."
She wasn't in
I'm
it?
Laura Linney. Yeah, that was it.
Huh.
She just introduced it.
Well, I don't know her. She's not important.
No.
Well, God.
If I don't know them, they're not important.
She's pretty.
She was in the Truman Show, wasn't she?
Yes.
Was she?
Yeah,
Yes.
she was the wife.
Yep. In the show,
in the yeah.
She was his
gotcha.
fake wife.
Gotcha.
She was the fake wife.
Gotcha. Now I know who she is. She has
big-
slight importance now.
because of the Truman Show.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
she's in that. That was
Okay,
good.
That was why.
Yeah.
That was a good movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what else.
Shout
she
out to our good buddy Nathan
Nat
and his
Hand.
wife Morgan.
said. Curtis.
Their anniversary is today. Want to give a shout out to them.
It's like
He's suffering from a
interruption
sickness.
after interruption.
That's his name. Is Curtis.
I know, but you're interrupting the man's shout
I
out.
I'm
only
just
do-
trying to give him some love.
I do it because Nathan. I know Nathan would find it entertaining, and he'd also hate that I'm throwing his name out there like that. 'Cause
he
doesn't go by Curtis,
but his Facebook says Curtis Nathan
Nathan
Curry.
does.
He
He
doesn't
does.
shy away from it.
he doesn't like to
Curtis
be called
Curry.
Curtis though.
Yeah.
He always says no. And
I
I'm
wouldn't
like,
either.
I'm doing it
Curtis
anyway.
Curry, that just
Yeah, CC. No,
no
I wouldn't either. It's a good thing you go by Nathan.
Kurt.
doesn't roll off the tongue,
I'm
right?
gonna call him Kurt from now on.
Kurt Curry.
Kurt Curry. Sounds like a British name right
No,
there.
we do wish you a happy anniversary, sir.
Yeah.
And he's feeling a little under the weather, so we hope you get better too.
And we just read news of our fellow Margaret from Margaret's
Our fellow
Monsters.
Margaret?
Yeah. Well,
Which one of us is Margaret?
She could reprise
We have
her
a
role.
fellow Margaret.
Yes, we're all Margaret.
Fella.
What?
Fella's still fellow, isn't it?
Well, fellow just means like another, and she's the only
Yeah, but
one.
but now I'm trying to make it gender neutral. So you could throw out fella with an A on the end and make it kind of like
Fella.
Spanish, but I
Fella.
don't think it works that way.
I don't think it does.
Because fella is just that's a boy. That
Fella.
is a boy.
That's a male
Hey, fella,
term, yeah.
get over here, fella.
But she just
Wanna
posted
tell
on
you a story.
she just posted on Facebook that she's having a girl.
She's having a baby girl.
Another girl. Margaret is having a Margaret.
Maggie.
Will she name her that?
Marguerite.
Margarita.
Maggie.
Mags.
I think knowing the story of Margaret's Monsters,
Maisie.
I don't think she would ever name her daughter Maggie. That's
Maggie
a cute
May.
name though. I think it works.
Maggie May.
It's like we're just naming the child on the show.
Yeah,
We
we'll
also
name
have
everybody's children.
A big announcement for next week as well.
Ooh.
Oh
Yeah.
God, here we go.
Um,
Dun, dun,
we have a new movie coming out.
We do.
And I would man, I would love to do that.
We're
And
such
you all,
we're such auteurs though that the movie has a 0-minute runtime. That's how advanced and
Yeah.
artful we are.
I was gonna say
It's not about fancy camera work.
No.
It's not about
Yeah.
cinematography.
it's
about
brilliant.
speed.
It's brilliant. That's the message.
brought to you by David Cronenberg. Is it David or it's Cronenberg? David Cronenberg.
Yes.
Who cares? It's just Cronenberg.
He's like,
now.
I don't
That's
even.
true.
It's like, the movie was so bad, I already blocked him from my memory.
I butchered it.
Uh.
But no, it's so funny because we're going to premiere this next week. But unfortunately, we're not going to be live. There is no show next week, so nobody's going to see it.
That's part of
Yeah.
the tourism, you know.
Yeah.
It's the film you don't see.
Well, there was a movie that came
That
out.
has the biggest impact. Very good.
There's a movie that I swear it came out and it did this weird. It hopped from only one single theater that it viewed in one city at a time. And they finally, because it wasn't making any money, they finally had to like dispense of that trope.
Yeah, that seems like a terrible
Well, that's the thing.
plan.
Artsy, but not business savvy.
Yeah, I mean, it's better than 48 hours of two men staring at each other on a beach, but you know.
I don't know what you're talking about. That's just genius.
Yeah.
I wish I would have come
Actually,
up
I think
with
it's
that
longer
idea.
than that. It was the French movie we made fun of a couple years back.
Yeah, it was like 18 hours and something, I think. Was it longer than
No,
24?
I thought it was longer than a day.
Oh,
I just
no.
don't
Actually, I
remember.
think it was like 28 days or something.
It was
like the longest movie ever
It was a
made.
ridiculous amount of time. I'm going to Google it right now.
Because I think it had something to do with, too, like, it
Literally,
was
it's just two guys on a French beach. Yeah.
But there was also, like, not just staring, they were moving, but so subtly.
Yeah.
And it was literally just them moving for, like, 28 days. I don't know. I don't remember this. If you
Actually,
find it.
the longest film ever made was not that one. It is an 85-hour film called The Cure for Insomnia, made in
that's right.
1987, USA. We did it. We made the longest film.
And we
Yeah.
Don't
cured
let the French
insomnia
take our-
too.
yeah.
In the process.
Yeah.
You're not finding it. I mean, maybe you can find it while we watch our review.
I like the sequel, 28 Days Later.
That was a good one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it had and funny enough, it wasn't 28 days.
That's what happens
crazy.
to people when they spend 28 days on a beach staring at each other.
28 days
There it
on the
is.
beach.
They become zombies.
That's very true. Very true. Alrighty, guys, we got a great show packed. So we're not going to be on next week. We're taking a week off. I have to work in the evening.
Yeah, you should have said something better. You
I
should
was
have
gonna
like
say-
family or something.
I give up. I don't care.
I should have been like, no, we're on set. We're on location.
On location.
Shooting.
On
Filming.
location. We're filming our movie.
On a beach in France.
Our movie.
Keith and Sean are just staring madly at each
Going
other's
back
eyes.
to Normandy.
Normandy.
Ooh. Part 2. That would be a terrible idea. But no, we got a week off because I've got to work the evening shift, so we won't be live next week. But we'll be back the week after. Mm-hmm. And for the foreseeable future, I don't think we have any more vacations planned in a while.
No.
I know, in fact, we got our lake trip coming up, which I'm really looking forward
And
to.
we're going to be here the day before we leave.
the day before we depart.
So
right.
I'm thinking we
Who
should
knows?
make a movie starring Norman Reedus where he goes to Normandy and call it Norman Goes to Normandy. Because of the name. I don't care what happens. I just want to make that now.
Maybe that's it.
Norman Goes to Normandy.
He shows up on the beach, and that's it. That's the end of the movie. We'll make the shortest movie ever made.
It's like Mr. Deeds comes to town. It's Norman Goes to Normandy.
We'll literally show sand on the beach and a foot, and then we'll just pan up, and it'll be Norman, and he just goes, "I'm here."
That's
That's
we
it.
saw that in Death
I
Stranding.
say,
though.
yeah. It just that
Oh,
wasn't the
that's
beach
true.
of
Just
Just
Normandy.
like a scene from Death Stranding.
Such a good game. Such a good game. Alrighty, all right. Let's move on to what people really want to see, and that's our opinions and thoughts on Nope, the big movie that hit the box office this weekend and is the reigning champ. It won this past weekend's box office.
Thor didn't.
No, it didn't. Dethroned after 2 weeks because nothing came out the week before. So really, I mean, the fact that I would say it was dethroned in a week. I'm just saying.
Thor? No, it was only number 1 its first weekend.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it was in number 2.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, but
Because
nothing came out, yeah.
It had a 60-something% drop, and then it had, I think, a 40-something this time. I don't know.
Woo, man.
Maybe a lot.
Just cradling
But they're still saying it's doing
those
great.
Marvel movies because we're going to be talking about that too. Comic-Con, huge reveals.
Yeah.
And, of course, Marvel's
Is
game
it, though?
plan.
You know?
That's
Are they huge reveals?
I like your thinking.
Technically, I guess, but it depends.
But
It's a kind of a dependent thing.
we got so much to get into, so why not first talk about, of course, the big movie on the block. Here's our review of Jordan Peele's
Banana
Nope.
peel. Praised by critics and the Hollywood elite, Jordan Peele has quickly made a name for himself as a brilliant filmmaker, but also has garnered praise for bringing diversity to cinema, each of his films having focused on African American characters and the quote-unquote black experience. More incredible, though, is that he has garnered a loyal following amongst filmgoers as well, with his movies receiving some mixed response here or there from average audiences, with those not in favor of Peele often being so due to some of his more abstract ideas and methods of storytelling on film. Nevertheless, Peele continues to stand out as a film director, and despite Hollywood praise, it has more to do with his effective and riveting filmmaking than a woke agenda. Nope, Jordan Peele's third film as director, stars Daniel Kaluuya as Otis O.J. Haywood Jr., and Keke Palmer as his sister, Emerald Haywood, the great-great-great-grandchildren of the unnamed horsemen in the first ever moving picture. The Haywoods are the owners of Haywood Hollywood Horses, the first black-owned ranch in Hollywood, where they tame and raise horses for Hollywood productions, with O.J. having inherited the ranch after an accident claims their father's life. While attempting to wrangle a wayward horse one night, O.J. witnesses something impossible in the sky. Down on their luck and unable to afford maintaining the ranch on their own, O.J. and Emerald set out to obtain unequivocal proof of something extraterrestrial hovering over their ranch. All of Peele's works thus far have had abstract qualities, and as Hollywood is quick to note, they all focus on black characters. But Peele's films, including Nope, are full of universal messages as well, relatable to all audiences. Nope may have some divisive reactions amongst audiences, much as Peele's last film Us did for similar reasons. Ideas and plot points aren't always spelled out in broken dialogue or unnecessary exposition. Critics praised Cronenberg's film Crimes of the Future, which we reviewed last week, but despite his bloated nonsense, there was no true substance to be found amongst the so-called abstract art. Peele takes bizarre and abstract visuals and lets the set piece and camera tell the story. From O.J. and Emerald's past raising horses to the flashes of Gordy's Home, a 90s-style sitcom side plot that features flashbacks to a gruesome event, Peele's themes of nature being untamable resonate subtly and clearly throughout the movie. Key points of dialogue and scenes throughout the film builds the overall story and themes, making Nope a fun, straightforward story on its own, but one rich with symbolism throughout, with plenty to pick up on a second viewing. While some of the odder elements won't gel with all audiences, I personally felt Peele balances the film well. Amongst even the strangest moments, Peele knows when to add humor or tension to avoid becoming too weird or laughable. A lot of this falls upon how well written and relatable the characters feel, with humor dispersed throughout, driven by each of their characters being real and unique, with solid performances from Kaluuya, Palmer, and even newcomer Brandon Perea, who plays a Fry's Electronics employee yet quickly becomes a standout fan favorite. With tight and clever writing, well-acted and well-crafted scenes that all build and comes together in a different and unique way, Nope stands out amongst extraterrestrial sci-fi films. There's a healthy blend of some of Hollywood's best extraterrestrial films, such as Close Encounters, Signs, War of the Worlds, and many more, and yet amongst the familiar, Peele makes this story his own. Throughout the film, it's clear to see Jordan Peele loves cinema and filmmaking, from how he displays Hollywood, making fun of it in many ways, yet takes care to showcase the technical brilliance behind even the laughable parts of the industry. Nope is a clever love letter to filmmaking and alien suspense films, while being uniquely Jordan Peele. Jordan Peele proves that the best way to bring diversity to the industry is to tell a story all audiences can enjoy. I give Nope 3 out of 4 stars.
3 out of 4 stars for Nope.
Yeah, I liked
So that's a good yep.
I liked it
Yep.
a lot. I did.
Go see Nope.
Maybe not quite as much as you two, but I did like it a lot.
Yeah. I was going to say, let's go around the table real quick, 'cause obviously 3 out of 4 from Keith. Sean, what did you end up on?
3.5.
Same.
Yeah.
I gave it 3.5. I think this is, for me, Jordan Peele's best movie.
I agree.
I actually, because I had my official rating for Us was 3.5, and I like this one just slightly less. So, but
Okay.
But yeah, and mostly, I honestly feel like this is the better film narratively. The way it's structured and built, I think, is much better than Us. I just really enjoy how unsettling Us was, and that's not really a knock against this film, because this film wasn't supposed to be that.
But it was at times.
It was at times, yeah. There was some really
But
good.
I agree. Not
on
as
the edge
Us
of your
is
seats.
Terrifying.
I just really loved like how just messed up. Like, and I think that it was also a turnoff for some people because of its bizarre nature. And I think that's also something similar we're seeing with Nope, but not to the same extent. As far as like if you look at critic scores and audience scores on Rotten Tomatoes, Get Out, of course, is still the highest, which is actually my least favorite of his. And then Nope is second, and then Us is third. So I feel like even though some people aren't connecting with this because of the odd nature, it's not as bad as with Us, which makes sense to me too, because Us really did have some abstract
Well, I was going to say, it's funny because I think you're in the minority in that regard.
Oh, yeah,
because I
I'm
think
definitely in the minority
most
on
people
Us,
would
yeah.
put Get Out as still his best.
Most people think Us is his worst, and for me, that's Get Out. So
yeah, same. I actually would agree. To me, it's like Nope, us.
And
than
it's
Get
not
Out.
that I liked Get Out. It's not that I didn't enjoy it. It just I think he's definitely grown with each film. I think you could tell with
Agreed.
each movie he's grown and has honed his craft. And you could see just in this the way the narrative structure is set up and the way you have the flashbacks to like Gordy's home that kind of are interspersed. And even just the chapter names, we talked about that after the
I like
the
that,
movie.
yeah.
The way just this movie is set up to where you get a little bit of information in each chapter, and it all ties together so well in the end. I loved, and you didn't have to be spoon fed everything. I mean, it's all there. It's not like you have nothing to go off of. They make it. It's clear if you pay attention, like how everything is going to fit together by the end. But it's not just spoon-fed to you like the end of Crimes of the Future, where it's like, well, if you haven't figured this out yet, we're going to stop these two people here
in the breakfast chair.
Yeah. And even then, Crimes of the Future, like as far as like the main theme of what he wants you to get, that's spoon-fed to you. But all the other stuff that's open to interpret is so abstract that it's like, well, they could conflict with each other, and Nope doesn't have that. It's concise. It's not spoon-fed to you, but I didn't feel like there were any any plot holes that are like, well, this could actually mean this, or this. It's clear what he's the message he's trying to get across.
Actually, I'm glad you brought up Crimes of the Future because I couldn't
just
think
bad.
of a better movie that was juxtaposed with one we just reviewed. And it's just funny because, I mean, Crimes of the Future came out back at Sundance. It premiered like back in March or April or whatever. But we just currently watched it.
Well, it had a theatrical release, I think, only like 3 or 4 weeks, about a month ago,
right.
maybe.
But the funny thing is about the film in general, it's like you have two distinct films where abstract...
Two diggets. Yeah.
Two what?
You said when you were going to say distinct, you were like dig, and so I was like, yeah, two diggets, I guess, or diglets, whatever you want to say.
Diglets. That's Pokemon.
I guess, yeah.
I don't know.
I thought I said distinct.
You
distinct.
you stuttered, and then you said distinct. So I just finished the stutter with what the first thing that popped into my head was.
I don't know.
Okay. All right. But all I know is that when I saw both had abstract elements. The difference is as you went one direction with Crimes of the Future where the abstract elements were so obtuse and over the top that it was, again, we even walked away from that film saying these are things that don't even seem believable in the world that he created.
Yeah.
They just seem ridiculous to the point of who would create that in the future, even if it's dystopian. It just didn't make any sense.
The bed, the breakfast chair,
everything,
all of it.
yeah.
I was like,
no rhyme or reason. And yet all of the abstract elements in this that were sci-fi elements still had a not only rooted in reality, but even in the way that they're explained in the film or you're brought to the eventual conclusion, they don't seem so far-fetched. Yeah. And that's what I mean, I'll be honest, the biggest twist was just seeing, and so many movies have done this, but again, Jordan Peele pulled it off. You see the trailer and you're not quite sure what you're going in expecting, and even when you're watching the movie, you're not quite sure how the movie is going to wrap up.
The trailer makes it seem like this movie's going to be even more like abstract and bizarre than Us was, and it wasn't at all. Like,
no,
I mean,
I appreciate
left you
it.
guessing,
Yeah.
and then when you see the movie, I really loved how well everything comes together.
And go ahead.
No, I
Sean.
was just going to say, primarily for me, I compared this movie to Signs in the sense of you've got two great suspense storytellers like M. Night and Peele, but like you said, Keith, it didn't have to be spoon-fed, and it wasn't like this thing where there's all these elements at the beginning of the film that seem completely out of place, and then, oh, boom, they all connect at the end, like with Signs and M. Night's films. This was done in a way that I feel like he's definitely branched out in his storytelling,
his own element.
Yeah, and tried new things, which is I don't want to see. I feel like M. Night's a great filmmaker and storyteller, but he kind of tells the same story in a different way in every film. And I feel like Peele, through the 3 films that we've seen so far, yes, there's some of them that aren't his best work, and then I would agree with Brandon and say that I think Nope is my favorite as well. But you can definitely see, like you said, how he's grown, how he's branched out, and kind of expanded his vision for film, and it makes me even more excited to see what he's going to do 2 or 3 years from now, since that's kind of how they've been spaced apart. I wasn't real sure with Get Out how his role as a filmmaker was going to go in Hollywood and in the theater, and I'm starting to see that now, and I actually appreciate him a lot more as a filmmaker now after this film than I did in the beginning.
Well,
because
and
the beginning, Get Out to me is a very race-driven film, and it's done well. It's done in a way that's tasteful and definitely unsettling with the premise, the plot. But this film was so far from that. And the thing is it's being touted as just that, if not more,
which is odd.
And I don't get it because it's
well, and I think it's funny because I'm glad you brought up M. Night and Signs, because I felt the same way. I was like, Signs, it eerily brought me to Close Encounters.
Yeah, Close Encounters.
A lot of the ones you mentioned in the review, I was on.
Yeah.
Like it had the feel, and I think part of that was, and the same. He did the same in. More so in Us than he did in Get Out, and I think it was just because Get Out was his first. But it's just a slow build, and it's it's spoon feeding you in such a way that your appetite is
enjoy the
gaining
bites.
throughout the movie.
Yeah.
You want to see more in how this concludes and how the pieces connect, and they don't disappoint in how they connect. Does it quite go exactly where you were expecting? Probably not, but in a way, that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that because I don't want to just sit down and know. I've seen too many cliche movies like that.
That's actually.
But the other thing too is I feel like M. Night, especially after his earlier films, he got a little bit too entrenched in his own identity of what people expected from him.
Yes. Yeah.
He catered too much to he's the twist guy.
Yeah.
He's the one that's got
subversion.
It's subversion of
Yeah.
expectations. And then it's like I feel like he got to I guess to where he thought he was too big to fail, and then we started getting ridiculous things like After Earth and The Happening, and it's just awful. But I think this is terrible. But I do think it's funny because I hope that isn't the case for Jordan Peele. and just like you said, from seeing Get Out and Us and now with Nope, I have a clear, presentation of Jordan Peele being diverse enough in his, movie, in his movie making abilities.
Well, you see him getting better.
Yes.
That's what I
and I can
hopeful for,
only hope that continues in a way that I thought it would for M. Night, but I think he got a little bit too. Again,
he peaked.
He too much into himself. He was much more about the allure of who M. Night was.
I think with
than
Old,
just being a
he
good
tried
storyteller.
to come back a little bit, but even Old, I felt.
Well, he did
He
have
did
a
with
cut
The Visit.
With the visit.
The Visit
and then
was
you
his
seen
comeback.
Split,
Forgetting
and
about
Split
that
was
one,
good.
yeah.
Glass was a little bit of a letdown, but still good. It wasn't until Old when you were just like, okay, this is a little bit of
And I've heard good things
Bad
about
M.
Severance, or not Severance. It is Severance.
The show?
the
on
show.
Apple TV+.
Yeah, I've not checked that out.
Yeah.
But M. Night did he got 4 M'd before he went crazy. He had Sixth Sense, Unbreakable, Signs, and then The Village, and all of those were solid. So maybe we should see where Jordan Peele is after his 4th movie, if that 5th one's still good or not. But yeah, no, I thought, I agree. You see him getting better, and the fact that Nope wasn't what I expected is what I loved, was because I expected there to be some kind of strange twist or some kind of like things aren't what they seem.
And you could say it.
because that's Peele.
A woke twist as well.
Yeah. I mean that too. Well, because that's baked in with all of his movies have that underlying, and this one has been praised and touted for that. So I expected so much more of that to be in there. And I mean, I could say I guess there's like a little bit. I mean, Jordan Peele himself even talks about some of those themes being in the movie, and it's like, you can take that away. I'm not saying you can't, because I understand where he's coming from, some of the people, but it's definitely not that driving focus or that main focal point where you just feel like you're being preached at and screamed at like so many other stuff
Well,
today.
if you go in looking for those things, you'll find them.
Yeah.
But if you're looking for a good film, you're going to find that too.
Right.
In
It's
a lot
just-
of different aspects.
And I feel like the things you're talking about that people would point out, I think that could be said for a lot of movies. There's so many hidden messages
Actually,
you could pull
I think that's
from
the
a
point.
movie that and that's what kind of pisses me off from a lot of these people who are expecting it from Peele. And it's like, I don't want to give Peele too much credit in this regard, but I'm sitting here thinking, okay, is that part of his genius where he's just subverting expectations of, you expect me to put kind of a diverse, social justice message in here, but I'm not going to do that.
Nope.
And in that case, you are going to think that that's what's implicit, and it's not. And I don't think he is doing that. I think he just was true to the story that
He's
he
just
wanted
trying
to
to
tell.
make a good film and a good story, and I think like that was extrapolating on what you were saying. I think that is actually the point, or the takeaway I get, is that I would say he succeeds as far as if you want to say his films are more diverse in the fact that he tells stories that are relatable to everybody. Yes, I mean these main characters are black and they do have like with their great grandfather and that thing, but that's still a story that if anyone else was in that situation, like you had mentioned after the fact, you would be mad that your great grandfather had been forgotten or had been overlooked, and that's a relatable story to not just black people or not just one diverse group. Anybody can relate to that, and that is how I think you tell a diverse story, is by having all these characters of different backgrounds, because he did have multiple characters different backgrounds in here, but they all came together with a common goal because they all had a shared experience. It's not us against them. It's look, we can all relate to.
And that's
to
how
what's
diversity is done right.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And honestly, I think a lot of the people who come out with a certain opinion of whether or not this fits with any kind of, racial category or some kind of racial message for today's time, I think you're doing a disservice to the movie and to Peele. Because ultimately, and here's the thing, Peele can go on record and say whatever he wants, and I think you said it while the review was playing, but I think it's hilarious how there's a lot of people who, or Peele himself would even come out and maybe say certain things or certain undertones, because even those plot points about the grandfather or about, I would even say some of the racial tension in the movie, it's not outside of anything that I think a normal person in everyday society would experience. It's not overtly done in a way that I'm like, oh, no, this is a message he's trying to throw in there. And we actually talked about this last week with Crimes of the Future and how ridiculous it is that the reason the movie is bad, and you said it best after we were done watching it, it's not that I don't get it. It's just a bad movie.
It's stupid.
And it's like when you put a message before the actual themes and plot of the film, you're going to end up with something bad. And thankfully, no, this movie is very real in the way it approaches characters and how the characters react to the events that are going on around them, the events themselves that go on, and even just the overall theme that I think it is massively being missed if people want to just look for a social justice message, is just the human nature aspect of taming wild beasts.
Yes, that's what I was going to say.
Taming nature.
Yeah, taming
and I
nature.
thought that was a great underlying message. And so many people wanted to say, oh, the Gordy's home, split theme or split story going on is missing the mark. I'm like, no, I have to completely disagree.
No, because it drives that not underline, but the main theme.
It's funny
through.
how like films like Jurassic Park and Jurassic Park's good. I'm not going to dog that. But look at Jurassic World. And you have this, the whole point of those films is to deter people from playing God and trying to tame
or at least
nature.
The original, the good one.
The good one, And it's like those movies did that so poorly. They got that message across so poorly with all the nonsense and all the stupid, unnecessary action and all of the different other things.
The Jurassic
this movie
World just kind of lost.
This
the
movie
message.
takes a freaking UFO that isn't really maybe a UFO, and it takes all these underlying family issues and the gathering of these people together to, like you said, with a common goal to talk about trying to tame nature. And you mentioned in the middle of the movie, you were like, man, this reminds me of Jaws, and I was like, it's like that. Sorry, I'm gonna say a cuss word, but CNN. That's a but their documentary Blackfish about taming the orcas. Like this is an exact it parallels with that, and it's done in such a good way that I feel like if you want to make a film that makes people aware of something and makes you want to step back and say maybe we should have a little bit more of a hands-off approach when it comes to some of these things, this is how you do it in a film like this, not Jurassic World, and not some of the other.
And you see again, even in
this
those
was
movies,
real cinema.
No, well, it's
but
funny.
it was no.
But no, you're right, because it's like we've seen how spectacle can, again, just like when you put a message ahead of the actual plot or characters, we see how that trounces any kind of resonance with an audience. I mean, it's like you need those things of value that we connect on. You're serious. Just
She's
going
sensitive.
nuts.
She's always sensitive.
Wow.
I don't know what she was responding to, but
I don't know.
Yeah.
Think about COVID, for instance. I mean, here's man dabbling in nature and science and trying to creates something,
Yeah.
and then it gets loose and kills a bunch of people.
Well,
like it's
I also think too that you juxtapose that with even the basic struggle they were facing in this film as to why they went down the road they did.
yeah.
And I thought that's just relatable because they have a chance to escape.
Yeah.
They have a chance to say, I'm not going back to that. And yet in a subtle way, they're kind of like, there's unfinished business and we have nothing else to return to if we leave this behind. It's literally what you would expect from a worst case scenario of we have nothing else. This is our only option. And the way it's framed is so well done that it's not hokey or that it's not ridiculous. And I think you see other movies on the scale of Jurassic World or even some of the Marvel movies we've talked about recently, and it's like, okay, these are visual feasts with regard to visual effects, but they have nothing of substance when it comes to actual motivation and agency when it comes to these characters. This movie brought that. And it's like all of the out of this world and sci-fi spectacle that you see is just it's the cherry on top.
Yeah, it doesn't overshadow the real messages that he's trying to get through in the film.
Right. And I don't know, I had nothing but good, like, I was, well, we do have to bring up a little bit of a story because I'm looking forward to watching this again because I loved it so much.
I've seen it twice, yeah. And
yeah.
I definitely go see it in IMAX if you see it. I've seen it both ways, and the
cinematography is great.
Yeah.
There's so many like just those wide open shots that, and it was filmed on with an IMAX camera, so it's definitely worth it to see it in IMAX.
It's cool because the saucer, when you see it in the air,
I love it.
On IMAX, you actually have to like
it's
turn your
great.
head to follow it, so it's
And
almost
well,
like you're standing there watching it over you as it goes by. It's just
and
very
the way
creepy.
in which it's done again is on a way. I love the fact, and this is exactly what you do see in Close Encounters and in Signs. It's like he took a traditional UFO story but made it his own, and you change enough of what is the staples, what you expect. You change enough from those parameters to make it your own that it makes it unique, and it resembles those things that came before, but it builds upon them.
Yeah.
And that's what a good filmmaker will do. And Jordan Peele no doubt excelled in that regard, but also seeing the cinematography. I mean, not that Us or Get Out were bad. Get Out was definitely done on more of an indie film level.
Yeah.
And I think he would even agree to that. Us was no doubt a step up, but even seeing this had, dare I say it, but the type of feel in certain shots of like a Nolan, Nolan landscapes and the way it
a little bit of Spielberg
in
and
his
stuff.
early days.
yes,
Yeah.
And it showcased what good cinematography is when you're intentional about what you're trying to show. And no doubt, I think this, again, is another step forward for Peele because it shows you how intentional he was with the approach to this film.
And I do think it's worth seeing more than once because there's definitely little things you can watch for and pick up on after knowing the plot. I told Brandon I don't want to spoil too much, but there's like a kind of a scene regarding a cloud, and that's mentioned, maybe like a third of the way into the movie. And knowing what to look for, like the second time I was kind of watching, and there's scenes that involve that cloud before they ever even mention it, that it's like if you pay attention, it's like, oh. So even though it's a little touch that you expect a good director to do, some people wouldn't think about that. It's like, we don't need to worry about this cloud being in the sky. Until it's mentioned.
Yeah.
But you can actually, if you go back and watch, it's there. Like in some of the scenes of him out on the ranch and stuff.
This just makes me want to see it again. It's definitely a film that I'm going to purchase when it comes out.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's
Same.
No doubt.
And it is funny because I will say one knock I have on the film, and it's not a huge one, and this is more from the Puritan side of me, because it was funny because my parents, hey, they're keeping it up at the top, but they just went and saw on their vacation last week Top Gun finally.
Oh, yeah?
And they loved it, but
it's still going strong. It's still getting viewers. Yeah.
They said they were like, it had one F word in it, and they were upset because they were like, if it didn't have that in it, they were like, the kids could see it.
Yeah.
My nieces and nephews. And it was funny because it's like, I don't think about it much now because I'm an adult.
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
But and I know, Sean,
when you have
do.
kids, you'll think about it.
Right.
Yeah.
And so it was funny because after seeing this movie, and I guess it was just because of what they just said, this movie, there are times where it warrants maybe their perspective.
Oh, there's a lot of,
But there's a lot of unnecessary language. That
especially in the beginning. They kind of tone it down some towards the end, but it is kind of funny that they lead in so heavily with the language.
Right. And here's the thing. I'm not trying to knock, it's not that it's bad writing. It's just there's some parts where I wish, because it is so language heavy, that's the only reason I feel like it's rated R versus, violence or something.
Oh, yeah.
To the point of it's actually it's a movie I wish I could tell other people that are in my family to watch with kids, because it is on the level of story-wise. I would have watched Close Encounters when I was little. I watched Signs as a teenager, and those are movies that have very deep themes and very great messages and just great movies. And I got to enjoy them at that age, but my nieces and nephews won't be able to enjoy this till they're older.
Yeah.
And that's the only unfortunate thing is I feel like, for the story's sake, I know he probably feels like he had to go there and not hold back. That's fine. So be it. It's artistic choice. I'm not
Hollywood, California.
on
I'm
it.
sure they talk that way.
Well, and the sad thing is I think you're right when it comes to, again, I think just the level of our society has gone down to where they're like, it was just, a year ago, we saw a freaking family with like 5 or 6 year olds going to see Halloween Kills.
Oh, that was
in
awful.
the
That
theater.
was
And
crazy.
I'm like, that's absolutely
It was so annoying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And just, it's just
But
downright
yeah, it's like, why
child
would you
abuse.
take a child
Yeah.
to see that movie?
It's like, that's just
No
wrong.
wonder the kids couldn't sit still and be
Yeah.
quiet. I wouldn't expect them to.
Right. It's like, it was just sick.
Especially Halloween Kills, because it was more gory than
yeah.
movies.
It was
so.
way worse.
Yeah.
But anyways, that would be my only gripe. Other than that,
Gripes.
no, I still think I can't wait to watch it again. The thing I was going to bring up before we move on to headlines, and I think I am looking forward to watching it again because the first 10 minutes are a little hazy to me
Oh, yeah. Okay.
because we had this weird circumstance of a guy coming into the theater.
And you just don't know with people.
No,
Isn't that sad? Yeah.
you don't.
Yeah.
And it was
So he came in with a backpack.
Yeah.
he came in with a backpack.
He had a bag, a cardboard box. He had all kinds of stuff.
And
Yeah.
he like laid the cardboard box like it was just the top of
He
it. Or
took
a
over
flat,
like 4 or 5 seats in the handicap
I figured
row.
out
Yeah.
he was using the cardboard as
It's like a table. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it was weird because he laid that across one of the
Seats.
chairs, the
arms,
seats.
yeah.
And then like he moved 2 seats down from that.
Yeah.
Opened up his bag. And then started shuffling through, and we're all just sitting here like, "What's going?
Yeah.
What's this
I
thing
looked
about,
over
like,
at Brandon. I was like, "Did you bring your gun?"
I was
he
like,
was
"I'm
like, "Yeah, I brought
carrying
my gun." I was like, "All right."
And he kept getting
Because I didn't this time.
I didn't have it."
Yeah. You're not supposed to bring weapons into the theater. No.
Yeah.
Oh,
But-
really?
yeah.
Not
sorry.
that I know of. I didn't
No,
know that. I know
Yeah.
that
Yeah, it's
now.
not marked on the door.
But
Yeah.
here's the thing. You're also not supposed to bring a backpack full of crap into the
That's
theater.
right.
Well, yeah.
Like,
They let
It's
him
just
in.
funny because, like you mentioned,
Brandon went out to his
mentioned
car.
the bottle of water,
Yeah.
and it's like,
So we
but
did-
they brought a backpack.
I'll be
in?
honest.
Like,
We
Brandon
went and
bought
bought
a-
snacks.
Yeah.
We got
At the
snacks
Dollar
beforehand.
Tree.
In fact,
Yeah.
we actually saw other people get candy. They're like, "Hey, y'all going to the movies too?"
Yeah.
Like, yeah, we are.
At the Dollar Tree.
But
they
I
did.
I didn't have my coat because it ain't winter, and
Yeah.
they're not gonna believe me in
And
a
he wears
heat
those
advisory.
tight. He wears them tight jeans. He
Got a
can't fit
hoodie.
bottles into.
No, I can't fit bottles in these jeans.
No.
So I brought the candy in, but I dropped those off in the theater when we got our ticket, and I was like, "All right, I'm gonna run out to my car. Just let me back in the side door here."
Yeah.
And it just was terrible timing. And as
Yeah.
soon as I come through the door, the one person who would probably raise hell about it,
The only person
The
that actually
only
does
one.
his. Yeah, to be fair, he's the only one that does his job.
He's the
so
only
I
one
get
that
it,
cares
but
about the
yeah,
place.
Yeah.
yeah. And the funny thing is he does his job to the extent that it's not good service when it comes to AMC Stubbs A-list.
Yeah.
Because he's very slow. But anyways, he comes up and he's just like, I need to see whoever's ticket just walked in that door.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay. Like, I'm carrying the bottle of water that I
Right.
just walked through the door with.
He didn't care about
care
that.
at all.
About the water.
So I pull
Yeah.
out, and I tried
Which
to
I
pull
get
out
it.
my
He's
stuff.
making sure people ain't sneaking in.
But I
I'm
didn't
fine
have
with
my
that.
ticket
But they
stub.
make more money off their concessions than the tickets. You think you care
Especially-
more about
I
sneaking
know.
food
Yeah.
in.
Especially on opening weekend. They're not making any
But
money.
anyway, yeah.
But I
Brandon didn't have a ticket.
I pull out my receipt. The guy.
I had your ticket.
No, well, yeah, that was the
Yeah,
thing.
'cause he tore it off and gave
he tore ours at the same time and gave yours back.
And
he
gave it to him.
Yeah.
Here's his
He gave
too,
me
yeah.
yours too. Yeah.
So I pull out the receipt, but the receipt wasn't good enough.
Yeah.
So then I had to pull out my phone and show that I was an AMC Stubbs
with the
A-list
ticket
member.
stub, yeah.
And and he just said, okay. He said, but just to let y'all know, once you go out that door, you can't come back in through it. And I was like, understandable, okay.
Yeah.
didn't care that I had
Yeah.
the water
Brandon,
at all.
Brandon can't come in that side door, but this guy can bring a backpack full of who knows what.
Right.
Yeah, I would have just said I forgot to lock my car. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Like I went out to
That,
lock
well,
the car.
and I told him, I said I should have just been like, oh, I forgot my wallet. Like I paid with my phone, but I didn't want to leave
told
my
him you
wallet.
should have just been like, oh, I forgot this
Basically,
water.
you should just lie.
I forgot this water, but you just tell the
I
truth.
forgot all my snacks.
It's
Sorry.
like, I only brought in the sprees.
Yeah.
I didn't bring it. And
Well,
it's
I mean,
like,
I'm standing there. I got like a can of Coke in one pocket, a bottle of body armor in the other, like 2 drinks, one in each pocket. I was like, I know you can tell. Like,
Yeah.
there's no way you can't tell my pockets.
I mean, it's not like we're doing anything bad. I've seen people bring boxes of fried chicken in there and eat.
Well, this
Well,
dude brought a
that's
whole
what he
backpack full
did.
of snacks.
yeah, he brought a
This
backpack
guy-
full of stuff.
I think he had like 3 or 4 Lunchables of those
Kroger bags.
frozen chicken nugget Lunchables or something. Because I don't know what he was eating.
yeah,
And he
But
got
it was-
up throughout the move constantly.
Yes.
Got up, left,
Yeah,
come
he
back
just
in,
had-
got
he
up,
had
left.
Us, he had us on edge for the
I don't
first
know.
10 or 15
Oh yeah,
minutes. Yeah,
It
Because
wasn't
just so
until
bizarre.
he leaned back and just I saw him
Started
eating.
eating, yeah.
that I was like, okay,
Yeah.
he's just got a lot of crap.
well,
'Cause
he had his backpack in his lap and he kept like reaching down in it.
Yes.
like
'Cause he didn't
reaching
want them
down,
to know he
and
had
like
those
you couldn't see what he was
Lunchables.
grabbing, and I was just like, dude,
I don't know
if
what-
he stands up and I'm about to punch and jump and everything.
I was ready. I was ready.
From now on, Brandon, all you got to do
I
is
was
bring a
ready.
backpack. You don't have to worry about going back out to your car.
There you go.
Apparently,
Apparently.
you just
bring a duffel
bag.
full of stuff. Bring a freaking footlong.
I'm gonna bring like,
sandwich.
I'm gonna buy a purse and just bring that.
Hey, there's
because
I've
they
seen
can't.
all
hey,
kinds of men with
they-
the fanny packs
I was
now.
gonna say, they
That's
can't.
coming. That's
they
in
can't search.
style.
It's like, hey, but
I identify as a woman.
So
Don't
you
you
can't
check my
search my
purse?
purse, yeah.
Yeah, that's my belongings.
Yeah.
There we go.
Boom.
Boom.
Easy
Can't
way
say
around.
a word
checkmate.
about it.
I win.
All right, let's go. It's 9:40. Let's go.
Oh crap!
Yeah, oh, wow.
We did.
We
All
just,
right,
that was story time right there.
let's talk about our headlines. Let's do it.
Headlines.
All right,
Yay!
it's all about.
Oh, it works this week.
I don't know why it didn't work last week.
I don't know.
I'm not sure. I guess now I don't. I don't
There we
have an
go.
excuse
Sabotaged it.
for not getting new sound effects now.
It's working. No, it's not because it's not on there.
All right, let's talk about Comic-Con.
Comic-Con.
2022 is come and gone.
Yeah.
Tons of reveals.
Yeah.
Did y'all check out any of the reveals? The
I
link
mean-
that we have in the description
Yeah, this
shows
is nice. It
all
has
the
all the
trailers.
trailers.
Yeah, yeah, it has all of them.
I would say
It
it's
is
I've
nice.
seen most of them.
Yeah.
I've seen. Yeah, I've watched everything that you've got.
Actually, Sean, do you mind listing off all the ones it does have?
Nope.
Let me see. It's got John Wick 4.
Mm-hmm.
It's got Shazam, Fury of the Gods, Black Adam, the Lord of the Rings series on Amazon, which we'd already seen before. It's got She-Hulk. I'm not interested at all.
I am.
Black Panther, Wakanda Forever. That's going to be a big one. I did not watch Dungeons and Dragons.
I actually just watched it today.
I haven't
yeah,
seen that
yeah.
one.
I'm
No.
mixed.
Don't care about
No.
Star Trek.
I'm mixed. We'll
National
talk about it.
Treasure, I do care about.
Is it a series or
It's
a
a
movie?
series.
It's a
so
Okay,
series.
I wasn't.
not interested.
Same. I didn't like the
Teen
reveal.
Wolf, the
Not-
movie.
yeah, I'm not interested. That's based off the CW series.
I know.
Yeah.
I don't even.
It's-
give
no.
a crap.
No.
Go watch Michael J. Fox's Teen
You got
Wolf.
Game of Thrones,
better.
House of Dragons.
That one I'm interested in.
And
That
then
one
you've
actually
got
does look
The
good.
Sandman, which I had never
I'm
heard
interested
of.
in
I
that.
don't know about that
Neil
one.
Gaiman
Which-
or Gaiman.
Real quick, correct me if I'm wrong. House of Dragons. That is the same actor who played.
No.
It's not.
That's
Nobody in this
No.
was in Game of Thrones.
Oh,
No.
for some reason I was thinking the
No,
one that
this
gets
is-
the gold poured on his head.
No,
there's-
this is
no,
this is
totally
way
before.
before. Way
Yeah.
before.
Okay,
yeah.
okay, okay, okay,
Yeah,
okay,
yeah,
okay,
yeah.
okay, okay, okay.
Not
I
same
thought it was the
actor.
same lineage.
You talking about the
I'm
guy
sorry.
that played Doctor Who? That's who's in the trailer.
That's
he played the 11th
I
Doctor.
knew he
yeah.
looked familiar.
Yeah,
What's
yeah.
his not
Matt Smith.
Matt Smith.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay. Anyways,
He was in
continue.
The Crown. The good
Oh,
season
yeah,
of
he
The
was.
that is-
Crown.
that
He
is-
was in that. Yeah.
that
I
last
am
season's
Groot.
got to come out.
And those are just
Not
like
looking-
5 shorts. Well, it's
Yeah.
just they're just animated shorts.
Marvel's Mean
I'm
Girl
not
and
even-
Devil Dinosaur. Walking Dead. No, nah. Dragon Ball. Who cares?
Oh, that one looks good.
Barbarian.
I'm excited about Dragon Ball.
Don't know about that one. I'm skipping the ones I don't want to see.
Well, we want to know what's coming out.
Yeah, just-
There's
just read
so
them all.
many. It's all these shows.
He wants you to
and
just
shorts.
just go through them
Interview
and read
with a
them.
Vampire. Is that a remake?
It's an AMC series.
It's a series.
Yeah.
C. Now that is a good show. Season
was the
3,
last one,
That's
I
going to be
think.
good. Yeah, that's the last one. All right, I'll go back.
here's a-
Little Demon, Barbarian, Dragon Ball, Superhero, Tales of the Walking Dead. The Walking Dead. That show sucks.
Tell us how you really feel.
Yeah.
The Walking Dead spinoffs are terrible.
Well, it's funny that I was surprised they're even bringing out
Is that
Marvel's
an
Moon
animated
Girl
series?
and Devil Dinosaur.
Yeah, I know
Yes.
who it is. I just didn't know they were doing
that's
that.
all of
But
them.
they're
I mentioned
doing
all of them.
They're doing another Walking Dead spinoff.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
know it's
That's
dead.
insane.
Well, no, it's like when this ends, Norman Reedus is going to continue on with his own series.
Why?
Yeah.
Just let it die.
So
Dude,
it's,
go do
it's
Death
following Norman
Stranding 2
Reedus,
and
yeah.
leave
Well,
Walking
he'll
Dead
be doing that
behind.
too. So
Wow. I will say, of all those that I was excited about, honestly, none of the Marvel stuff.
I'm excited about the
John
Marvel
Wick
stuff.
4 is.
I have mixed feelings. Yeah, John Wick 4 definitely. I have mixed feelings about Marvel because I know everything they're doing could be really awesome if done well, and that's the thing. I'm excited for the potential. I just no longer have faith that they're going to do it justice. So
I am
I don't
looking
know.
forward to. I was to say John Wick 4 was, I think, the kind of big reveal that everybody they were expecting, but I guess not
Yeah.
as much as these other things. Like She-Hulk, I was kind of surprised by, but I thought it was.
they announced that forever ago.
No. They announced it, but as far
Oh,
as
the
like a
new
reveal,
trailer.
yeah, because I did not like. I thought they were going to do it better justice in terms of the
Well, this
animation.
is like the second trailer.
Right,
The
but that's what I'm
first-
saying.
yeah.
The animation I thought would be better, and I did not think it was.
I don't think it's bad looking
I
for
was-
a series. It's
Ah.
just
See, but you got to
I
throw
don't know.
that on there. You got to
kinda
tag
with-
that for a series.
For a
Here's the
series,
thing:
yeah.
the first trailer they touched up the CGI, and I thought it looked really good after they touched it
Well,
up.
it was
so
weird.
with
There
this,
were
I'm just
certain
like,
spots where it was like they were doing like there were times where it looked like she just had makeup applied.
Yeah.
and then there were other times where it was like they went full CG. And I was like,
oh, I
it
don't
was
think
like
she's
they
ever
were
had makeup
doing
applied.
this,
I
like,
think the times it looks
hybrid.
like she has makeup applied is actually the good CGI. I think it's just mixed CGI.
I think she's just really green. I didn't think they put anything on her.
Really?
Just
Because she
natural-
doesn't look
She's
anything like
naturally
her
green.
actual actress.
Well, she lives. She lives
Because she's like way taller and buffer. Like I don't think she looks
extremely
anything.
sarcastic. when I
Oh.
said
she
that.
she lives close to the equator.
Yeah.
The melanin in your skin.
Yeah.
yeah, it's all
I
about the
thought
melanin.
for what it is, it looks spot on for the character. I just don't know yet. I mean,
I'm just not. Again, I think after Thor, and
Yeah.
I'll just continue to state my opinions. I think we're going to talk about Marvel's game plan here in a
Yeah,
sec.
yeah.
So I won't get too
I was
heavy
getting ready
into
to
the
say
Marvel
none of
stuff.
that's mentioned in this article, but
Yeah.
you got it.
Yeah,
we got
yeah.
it coming. Yeah.
So we'll talk about that in just a sec. But as
Yeah.
far as the other big reveals, the Sandman looked okay. I'm skeptical just because I don't know, especially when they do these very hugely intense, kind of like with Lord of the Rings.
yeah.
I don't know which direction they're going to head in terms of being faithful to the novel or to the book, and how much they're going to fill in. Because I've never read the Neil Gaiman
Yeah.
book.
I don't know.
It's a
anything
comic.
about it,
It's a
so.
they're comics.
Oh, they're comics.
Yeah.
Okay,
I mean,
I'm
he
sorry.
did write
I thought
it,
it
but-
was. I thought it was just a novel.
No, yeah. Well,
Um,
he does both novels and
But he
uh,
did he just write it, and then of course I guess somebody else animate.
yeah,
the
that's all
comics? Okay.
comics. Usually your writers don't also draw. There's
Okay.
always a writer and an illustrator.
But
Yeah.
I don't know. I was kind of. I feel like Netflix again is hit or miss, but it really is
Yeah.
the same way I feel about the Lord of the Rings series.
I mean, that's honestly everything in there. It's like I look forward to all of it, but I'm just so skeptical nowadays because I told Sean actually over there, especially like with all these fantasy series.
What'd you tell me?
When Lord of the Rings first came out, like I thought there were just so many great fantasy novels and stories that I would have loved to have seen turned into live action, in the same vein of how well Lord of the Rings was done. But now that we're at a point in time now where a lot of them are being done because Lord of the Rings was so popular,
And Game of Thrones.
and Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
But Game of Thrones came much later.
Actually, that's
Yeah.
about
And
the
that's what I'm saying.
only one on
That's
that
what I'm
list
saying.
that I felt like had the same feel of the original series.
They're all that's what's like. I know I'm skeptical now. Wheel of Time wasn't well done. I love the Aragon books, but I don't have faith in Disney to do those justice either. So
Yeah.
I just
Well, the movies
I'm very,
they've already
The
made,
movie,
not
yeah.
Disney. but-
One movie.
They only did
Yeah,
one movie.
and it
Yeah.
was
Fox
terrible.
did that a long time ago, and it
Yeah,
bombed.
it was
yeah.
terrible.
So yeah, it's not that I'm. For years, I was like, yeah, let's make all these, and now that they're making them, I'm like, please stop making them because you suck at it.
Yeah.
Agreed.
I mean, the Lord of the Rings, the newest trailer.
It looked
It
decent.
looked better because
Yeah.
I didn't realize this was the first time I think that it showed the dwarves and stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, so they used the same
It looks
makeup.
the
They
same.
used the same thing as
Yeah.
Jackson. Same thing with the orcs and stuff. And I'm like, that's cool because they're trying to keep it in the
Visually,
same
yeah.
visually in tune with the films. So that was something that I didn't think they were going to do. I thought they were going to try to make it their own, which I think they will with the story and everything else, but at least it's going to feel familiar or look familiar.
It looked more
that's-
familiar in that as far as what I know that world to feel like from Jackson than the previous trailers.
Yeah.
They at least look like they had a lot more fleshed out in terms of like the visual effects and the visual style. So many of the, other than the original first screenshot they showed, there were so many like moments in the teaser trailer that I just saw and I was like, this is looking like just woke garbage to me. Like, I hate to say it, but that was just the first impression.
And I mean, that's
I got.
always still a possibility, and that's what makes me nervous, is knowing some of the lore changes. And it's like, is this being done because obviously, like, I know in some instances there's not a lot of story in the Second Age that just happens right after. Like, it's a lot of stuff spaced thousands of years apart, so they're kind of condensing the timeline to tell this one narrative, so things aren't happening thousands of years apart. I get that. I understand you have to do that to make a series. That's fine. I just worry about like how, because of the diversity, it's like changing things to make the narrative flow better because of the way the novel is versus a series is one thing. Changing things because you have to fit some type of quota, I'm not okay with. So it's like, what changes are being made for what reason is what I'm most anxious to see what happens.
And
with.
we won't know until it does officially drop.
What about Black Adam? You think that's going to bring DC back?
No.
No.
I
actually don't like the trailers that I've seen so far.
I don't
at
either.
all.
Nope. Same.
I have major problems with that too, because he actually, that character is kind of basically like Shazam or Captain Marvel, but Shazam in the movies. That's like his arch nemesis for the longest time in comics, and then they kind of made him an anti-hero. And this movie, he's more of an anti-hero, and I just hate that they're kind of going with the newer version of him, because I think that's more of like The Rock doesn't want to be a straight up villain, so they're like, yeah, that's fine because he's no longer that in the comics. I'm like, yeah, but you should at least start him where he started at, you know.
Yeah.
It's like Winter Soldier. He didn't start out on the Avengers team, you know. So
well, how do you feel with the fact that the second Shazam has been revealed? I mean,
I haven't actually watched the trailer for that yet. I liked the first one. I
mean, do y'all have hope that this one is going to be?
I don't have hope for anything anymore. It's so narcissistic.
I know. I agree.
Even Marvel,
the first
like,
one was good, and it's like if you can copy that success and put that into a sequel, that's great. But look at freaking Wonder Woman. We keep going back to.
I'm so skeptical
Patty
about
Jenkins.
everything now.
It's
like it seems like they strike lightning in a bottle, and that's it. And then they let it out.
It's not just DC. I mean, even Marvel now. It's like I said, I'm excited about what they announced because I know what it can be, but I have no faith that it's going to be that.
Well, let's move on to that.
Yeah,
let's move on to Marvel, because I mean, the fact is that obviously we got a huge, massive, dump. from Kevin Feige,
and I don't think that was their original plan. I honestly think after
damage control.
Yeah, after fans were so disgruntled, they were like, okay, we're just going to dump everything at Comic-Con and let them know where we're going, and that's fine. It's like, okay, and it's funny because you mentioned like the not so unexpected, because it's kind of not. I mean, most comic book fans had an inkling. I mean, we knew basically Kang because there's been enough of that plot. But I even said a couple of weeks ago that I think they're going towards Secret Wars, and sure enough, Kang and Secret Wars. So it's like you could see certain things, but it's not well done enough that I think average moviegoers can appreciate that. It's like, yeah, we get the after credit scene in Doctor Strange when Charlize Theron shows up. That was my biggest clue that they might be doing Secret Wars, because she's talking about you caused an incursion. And it's like, okay, here's the problem for me as a comic book fan, and I think for average audiences. If you're going towards Secret Wars and the incursion thing, which is mentioned briefly in Doctor Strange, then that should have been more of a bigger impact in Doctor Strange. It should have focused more on what incursions are and why that's important, because that's how you build towards the bigger finale of Secret Wars. Like with Infinity War and the Infinity Wars, when they explain what the Infinity Stones are and all these things throughout the films, you could see how they're clearly building up to that, because they're giving you a piece of, here's this Infinity Stone, here's this one.
Yeah.
So when you just drop these little Easter eggs in the after credits scene, because comic book fans will pick up on it, it's not helping the average audiences who are like, what's going on? And
right.
I think it's just a poor way that they're doing this phase. That's my brief.
No. I would completely agree, because I think that was my problem with this. There was nothing wrong with the original Infinity Saga, them having to kind of explain and lay out some of the groundwork, because it was something new and really untested. But the fact is after the success of the first three phases and ending with Endgame, you have such credibility built up that you could have really done any kind of story you wanted to or rollout that you wanted to. The fact that we're literally now one whole phase in, and you had to come out and tell us exactly where you're headed leaves me with no faith that you have any clue as to how this is going to cohesively connect.
It's a tiny hope, and I don't really trust it, because they also restructured their phases, because now the end of Phase 4 is
Wakanda
Black Panther
forever.
and Ant-Man's beginning of Phase 5, and that wasn't the case. Before, everything they had previously announced was all Phase 4, and now they're shifting. And I think they're trying to do damage control, which gives me maybe some hope they'll try to connect things better.
Right some wrongs.
Yeah, but it's like, because, I mean, Marvel has done that in the past too, but it's just, I just can't
and you
trust.
look at these release times, and I'm like, you're still getting like 2, and I think next year is at 3? There's 3 movies.
Everything, the whole entire saga is going to be much shorter than there'll be more screen time as far as shows and movies, but everything's done by like 2025. Like, it took the Infinity Saga a decade, and this one's not going to, it's going to be half of that.
And it's funny because
every year there's like 3 or 4 movies and then like 7 shows.
That kind of tells you everything you need to know
4
right
major
there.
movies next year.
Yeah.
That's insane.
And then I think there's 6 or 7. Well, it's the same thing.
I know, but that's
this
just
past year.
so much.
Yeah.
It's so much that
You
it's
had.
like, I don't know if it's worth keeping up with. And not in terms of, I understand they're thinking, oh, we need to feed that appetite. We need to keep it fresh. But part of the problem is, again, so much. I mean, this is the problem with Star Wars. So much content, and yet at the same time, very little substance. And with them trying to reshuffle everything, I'm not convinced that they're on the right path, and that they're literally just trying to, again, pump this out to make it as successful as possible with each iteration. And you can honestly say if another movie comes out in 3 or 4 months and that one's a hit at the box office, it's like, hey, we got steady cash flow at least.
Oh, they've all been good enough at the box office for them to feel like they're on track.
But the fact that they're cramming out that many movies in short a period of time, I'm like, how can you do damage control on that?
Yeah.
So much of this is already
been set up. Yeah,
Well,
and that's
think about it. In 2025, there's going to be 2 Avengers movies in
Yeah.
the same year.
Well, because I think
That's
it's
insane.
because I think it'll be kind of like Infinity War and Endgame, but rather than one year after the other, they're both in the same year. Yeah,
Well, but that also tells me too that, for one, I don't know what Avengers we're getting, but also because it's going to be the new ones.
Yeah, it's the new ones.
But at the same time, I'm also like, that also tells me that you have to try to put these together closely, not only because they're story related, but because, oh crap, we got to film them together. We can't have all these big, huge actors doing these, a year apart, which they filmed Infinity Wars and Endgame together.
Yeah, they did.
But it's like, why do you have to cram those 2 into 1 year? I feel like Matrix Revelations or Reloaded and Revelations were in the same year, and that was too much.
Yeah.
I mean, literally, like, a year apart was spaced perfectly.
For me,
For like Lord of the Rings and not
yeah.
for Star Wars. That just sucked, but go ahead, Keith.
No, I forget where I was going with that one. But I will say, I'm not. Wakanda Forever looks interesting. I don't know for sure. I don't think. I mean, there are things I think that'll tie in, but again, seeing the stuff from the trailer and that story, I don't know that that's going to tie in to the larger arc either.
I think Ant-Man's going to be a major one.
That one definitely is, because Kang's the main villain in Ant-Man.
Yeah.
So
the first Avengers movie in 2025, the Kang Dynasty says that's going to be a direct correlation to the show Loki.
Yeah,
and Ant-Man
well, Loki already set that
Quantumania.
up. Yeah.
So it's like you've got a show or a series
they all
and
do,
one
yeah.
movie that are going to tie into the next Avengers film, but then it's like, well, where's the pieces from the films that we've seen so far?
I agree.
Yeah.
Like, that's kind of the funny thing.
Because
is like,
Doctor Strange is already tying into a little bit with Secret Wars, and that's the thing. Because to me, like how Ant-Man does
but
is
if Kang is the main villain, we have no breadcrumb trails, or we have no mention of him, and there's nothing like Thanos was shown at the end as a teaser of
he's not in the
Iron
movies.
Man?
Kang is brought up in Loki season 1. Like Loki is probably that is the biggest piece of the puzzle we've gotten so far. Yeah, and it's clear, like watching it, like the way it goes. Like that was when I knew kind of some of the direction they were going in. But that's what's also sad to me is that Loki was the 3rd series they released on Disney Plus. Before
Last summer, a year ago now.
I think it came out before Shang-Chi, Eternals, Doctor Strange. So we've had all these projects since then that have not touched, other than these small little Easter eggs that they throw in there that comic book fans kind of know.
Yeah.
But it's like, it's really weird. And for me, Ant-Man will tell me like how well Ant-Man's done. I'm like, okay, maybe going forward, but that one we know is supposed to be connected, and that's also a problem, is because how do all these others it's like they're trying to do too much without, and it's like just focus on Kang or focus on Secret Wars or those kind of tie together. So that's fine. I understand how they can focus on both of those, but then you have the Thunderbolts are coming. They're just
when I saw that, I was like, "What the hell's Thunderbolts?"
I mean, it's great. I love. I love the Thunderbolts.
Never heard of it.
Well, they've been setting that up too with the villains.
I
that
wouldn't
they've been,
know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, unless you're
Yeah.
a comic book fan,
Yeah.
which I never really have been.
And I'll say that for them. I'll say that real quick. If that is their game plan, then so be it. But fully freaking commit.
Yeah.
Because they're doing too much 1 foot in and 1 foot out.
That's my problem.
And that's the issue.
It's focus on a story because not all of these things can tie together, and if you do tie them together, it's going to be poorly. Kind of like Thor: Love and Thunder, where I thought just that one movie had too much with Jane's storyline, Gore's storyline. It's like the Gore plot point could have been stretched out over more than just one movie, but it's all crammed into one. So
we had that with Doctor Strange.
Yeah.
In the multiverse.
Too much going on there.
Like 3 or 4 different plot lines. And it's like, why? Why is all this crammed into one movie? But also, too, there's even some unknown or, I guess, suspected projects. But they did peek, a little bit of a glimpse into the future with Fantastic Four.
Yeah.
We know is coming. And
it's the start of Phase 6.
Well, and I was going to say, they revealed...
Unless they shifted around again.
Well, but that's the problem. I mean, I feel like so much of this is, okay, we got to let you know a clear path of where we're headed, but then we're trying to also entice you to stick around because we still got some great stuff to reveal. And I think that's a little bit too little too late.
Yeah.
Because at this point, I'm like, you've wasted all this time in setting up this next phase, as in between we already ran over the numbers way more way more screen time when you consider the shows
The teasing gets
than
old
the
too,
original
though.
Infinity Saga.
Because I was reading something today about, and I mean, I don't know, it was a rumor, and I'm hoping it's not true, but I was reading something today that they're saying that X-Men may not even be introduced till Phase 7, which would be after all this. I was like, but you've already teased it, like, because they tease it in
the mutants.
They tease it in Miss Marvel, the X-Men and mutants. They've done it in Doctor Strange, and I think there was one other thing that they kind of teased at the X-Men now that they own it. And it's like, why would you tease the X-Men in all these projects, but then it's like, but we don't have the time to do them because we're doing all this, so that won't happen until after the multiverse saga. And it's like, then why tease it like that?
X-Men 97 on Disney.
Actually, I'm excited.
I am too.
I'm actually excited about that.
I am too, but I want to.
They need to do something
Disney,
with the movies.
I'm like, what are they going to do with this show?
Oh yeah.
When they reboot this series, what are they going to do?
It's a continuation of the X-Men 90s cartoon, which
Yeah.
I'm excited about. But yeah, it's like, how do they continue it in a way that
That'll be the same art style too.
Oh,
it
is.
is.
Okay.
It
They've
definitely
shown
is,
everything.
but-
It looks exactly like it, and I'm like, it's good. I mean, that you could tell that they're trying to match that show, but it's going to come down to the content of this show.
Of
Yep.
course.
Yeah.
Yep.
Absolutely. Well, and also, and this will probably be my last point, but like you said, when you're teasing so many of these things, I think also what pisses me off is
And you never get a payoff.
you don't get the payoff. And when you look at the time frame of even this phase or these 3 phases, and you're talking about them being done in half the time, how can you be done in half the time of the Infinity Saga and have literally no half the substance?
Yeah.
I mean, it actually kind of correlates. It's like you're rushing it, and when you don't even have these others, other staples that are already teased, but again, nothing to look for. It's almost like you're saying, we're going to rush some of this out just to keep you around. We don't want you to get bored, so we're going to do it quick, but all that's on the horizon, it's still coming, so stay with us.
I also feel... go ahead, sorry.
I was just going to say, I forgot to mention Guardians 3 and the Marvels
in
between there. And just reading some of the stuff about Guardians 3, they're even teasing, or even James Gunn is teasing that the Guardians will show up again later, but it's not going to be the same ones.
Yeah,
because he says this
some of
will
them
be
are
the
are
last.
done
This will be
acting,
the
yeah.
last version
Of
these
Guardians.
Guardians. And I'm like, part of that is Marvel, but the other part of it is the actors have all said, unless James Gunn's at the helm, we're not coming back to do this.
Well, and most of them,
So-
like, I know Dave Bautista, like, regardless of Gunn or not, has just said he's done with, like, and not in a disrespectful way. He's
Yeah.
just like, I've done this for
I
long enough.
understand.
I'm done. Yeah.
Same with Tony Stark. Same with
And
Chris
that's the
Evans.
thing. And granted, yes, in the comics, I mean, every team changes up their roster. So, yeah, in the comics, the Guardians have had different team members. But it's like after a while, the comics always revert back to the originals because that's who fans want. You can't do that with the movies because the actors are done. So it's like Marvel's trying to push like the new characters, which is understandable because the old actors are hanging up their hats. They're done.
Yeah.
But it's like you don't have the same emotional connection to those characters. So I mean, people are just they care less. It's like and even some of them can be okay, can be cool.
I feel like the transition of Captain America is the one that they're
that's
transitioning
the only one I liked.
best.
Yeah,
they did create a really good emotional connection between Falcon and.
But again, we've
Captain
been with
America.
Falcon since Winter Soldier, so you've had time to grow attached to him.
Yeah.
Sorta. No, I can't say sorta because it wasn't. I was gonna say with Hawkeye, but Hawkeye pretty much is. It's literally the only purpose is to hand the torch over to
Haley Steinfeld. Yeah.
So I'm
and
like,
that was okay, but I mean, it wasn't anything special either.
Right.
That series. Who is Wanda, Scarlet Witch. I love that character in the comics, and they didn't really do her justice, I think, until WandaVision. And it's like when you finally get something with her that gives you an emotional connection, they're like, okay, now I understand what's so great about this character. Then you get Doctor Strange, where they just butchered her.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, well, so much for caring about this person.
Well, and so I was gonna say, so any kind of optimism with what the game plan is right now that's rolled out.
You don't know.
It's up in the air.
You don't. You don't. Know.
So our optimism.
I mean,
is,
it's really
it's
like,
really in
with
the same spot we
Avengers
were
films,
in.
They say there's no director, there's no timeline.
I think they
There's
announced the one's going to be the director from Shang-Chi, Kang Dynasty.
Oh,
Yeah,
Kang
yeah,
Dynasty.
yeah.
Yeah. Secret Wars has no director, nothing like that. So it does kind of lead me to believe that this was an information dump that just came as damage
That was
control.
actually, you reminded me of the point I was going to make with the directors, because that was another thing that, and I know a lot of people would disagree with me, but for a long time during like the Infinity Saga in the first 3 phases, Marvel got a lot of heat because people said they were too controlling, and like with Edgar Wright leaving Ant-Man because he just wanted to make a solo movie that was all about him, and they're like, no, it still has to connect to everything. So some people were like, well, Marvel isn't good with directors because they don't let them be themselves, and I'm like, I get that, but at the same time they're making something cohesive, so you still have to kind of go by their game plan. And I feel like they've lost that with this because they want to be like, oh no, we let Taika Waititi make his movie, and it's like, okay, I'm not against letting directors do their thing and putting their own spin on it, because he did that perfectly with Ragnarok, but it still has to fit Marvel.
Yeah.
And it's like, yes, I get, like, maybe you don't like people saying, well, you're not good because you don't let directors make films, they make just cookie cutter movies, and it's like, but there has to be a give and take. You still have to fit into
them from
this
being
universe.
labeled that way, though, was the fact that they did have the attention to detail when it came to the overarching picture, and it was even with even in the Infinity Saga, was it with the Russo brothers?
Yeah, they did great.
Once they were pegged as, oh, they're hitting the right notes, and they understand the content, and they understand how these cohesively connect. We started getting pieces of the story that were tying into the bigger elements, and they were. I think it's actually a mistake for certain movies to be announced of where we're headed without having certain people tied to these projects, because that tells me, just like we got with the Star Wars episode 7, 8, and 9, how much of a cluster that was. Because of the 3 different directors with no cohesive vision.
I think that's what's
crazy
Kathleen
to Kennedy.
Because I know, okay, Kevin Feige, he oversees everything and makes sure it all connects. But now when they have so much, like you said, 7 series in 1 year, 4 movies, it's like he can't possibly be everywhere all at once. So, even his control is stretched thin. And it's like you could tell there's not if they had a solid game plan that maybe Kevin Feige and whatever team of writers they may need came up and said, okay, this is where each of these movies have to hit. Because Joss Whedon actually was that person with Feige during the first 2 phases, when he kind of, part of phase 2, he actually would come in and be like, we need to make some changes to this movie, this and this, because it doesn't connect to my Avengers film. And it's like, you need that. You need someone there to be like, okay, you need to know who's going to make Secret Wars and Kang Dynasty, have a basic idea, even if the whole story's not set up, of where it needs to go, so that they can say, all right, well, this movie can't do that because it'll conflict with this story later on down the road. And I don't feel like they have that anymore.
Well, I think that's what Kevin Feige was.
It's
and
what he was
supposed
praised
to be,
for, or what he should be, yeah.
But the problem is I think so much of that praise has now turned into, well, we need not only a subversion of expectations, but we also need to make things different.
Yeah.
It can't be the Infinity Saga 2.0. It's got to be its own unique, Marvel universe. And I'm like, okay, again, that's fine with wanting to take twists and turns, but part of that and part of the excitement of that was within the individual movies themselves. The different genres that we saw with, Black Widow was a spy genre film,
I'm trying to think of others that fit into a specific genre that they tried to, uniquely make. Ragnarok with its 80s type, throwbacks. It's like you had these different ways of approaching these Marvel films.
Well, Thor: Love and Thunder was kind of made straight up like a straight up comedy, but in a bad way.
I was gonna say maybe not for if it was a solo superhero film, like a one-off. Again, not in the Marvel universe.
That would be fine.
It just like Deadpool kind of had to exist that way because it was so apart from everything in the Marvel universe. But again, when you have these outliers that are now trying to weave together, it's seeming like there's much more of a mess at hand that I think Kevin Feige, I'm not saying he can't control it all or fix it.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's too late.
No.
But I think it's starting to appear to become a way bigger behemoth than even the original Infinity Saga was. And especially with how popular it is and how much is expected out of it with regard to all these different threads that are supposed to come together. Yeah. I think it's just becoming way, way too convoluted and way too quick with how much they're trying to do. And I'll be very interested to see how this phase, again, like I said, even with Thor and Love and Thunder afterward, I'll go see the movies.
Yeah.
I'm not dropping off anytime soon.
Well, I'm going to give them a fair shake. I mean, I'll be honest.
Right. But I'm not excited about them. I'm not over the moon like I was with the Infinity Saga.
It's funny because they'll show something or announce something, and I'll get excited because, like I said, the comics. But then I'll okay, Wakanda Forever, and they revealed Namor, and I'll be honest, when I saw him in the trailer, I got super pumped because I thought that was that's a character from the comics that's actually like the first Marvel superhero, like one of their first ever comics, and it was really cool to see him. And then I was like, but what are they going to do? So they inflated because it's like,
how are they going to ruin
this?
It's
like they're finally introducing him, but then I'm like,
we've been disappointed with everything they've introduced so far.
Yeah.
So the payoff just hasn't been there, and we're still disappointed without there being a payoff.
Yeah.
Alrighty, guys, let's move on to our story time section.
It's story time, where the podcast members tell their stories.
That's right. Aaron, she's having a girl.
She's having a girl.
She's having another girl.
Yeah, girl.
That lovely voice you heard there was Aaron Ralph. Well, no, what used to be Ralph.
It's not Ralph.
It's
anymore.
not Ralph.
It's
anymore.
Boyd.
Not anymore.
Aaron Boyd.
Aaron Boyd.
But she didn't have no boys. Did y'all like it? That was terrible. Got two little girls.
What's the story time?
Please. Let's
get to that.
All right, this is kind of a long-winded, but I just came up with it out of my own butt because, I came home, I dropped my pants, I pulled it out, and I was like, well, that'll work.
It just kept coming.
A time you said something that shouldn't have been said. And this is, I know, off the cuff. It'd probably be hard to come up with one.
Every time I open my mouth.
That'll work, too. But no, I didn't know if there was I think this came to me because, and he doesn't watch this show anyway, but my boss will sometimes do this at work. He'll put his foot in his own mouth. And
Michael Scott, The Office.
Yes, very much. And there's times I just think of the times when he does the Fat Albert skit. It's just so wrong.
The Chris Rock.
Chris Rock.
Yeah.
Yes.
Why every time?
And then,
that show's so great. They can't.
They couldn't make it now, which is sad.
So many.
That's our generation.
Anyways, we should probably talk about our own
time you
experiences.
said something that shouldn't have been said. Anything specific come to mind for you all?
Well, I thought you were about to tell us one with your boss.
Well, no, it's funny because it's like I thought of one for him. I mean, I'm sure it happens to me.
Well,
I don't
want
want
one for yourself. Yeah,
I was gonna say I don't
want
to
out someone else's story.
No,
That's not cool.
That's not right. Especially
then you would be saying something you shouldn't have said.
Especially when it's the guy who signs your checks.
I know I've done it.
I shouldn't say that.
I know I've done it. Here's my thing.
Trust
me,
he knows too.
If my thing is like when things don't happen recently to me, like I don't really like remember. Like once it's happened, it's happened.
Yeah,
and then I move on. So I don't always the best at remembering. Like,
well, I was gonna say, is it also a situation where sometimes you don't think about it until after the fact?
oh, I know there's like at least like with family and stuff, and then like you're squabbling over something, and you might say something stupid, not mean or hateful. I don't mean that, but just something that like you don't think of, or I'm trying to think of a really good example.
I would say, are there times where you've said something to be spiteful, and then afterward you thought,
oh yeah, I've done that.
Yeah, that was a little bit out of line.
And
I
that's
shouldn't have-
definitely like afterwards. It's like I think even in the moment, you shouldn't be saying what you're about to say, but you don't care because you're
do
mad.
it
So you're like,
intentionally to
it's
cut
like I'm gonna
deep.
hurt you, and then you realize that effect's like, wow, that was such a bad words.
prick thing to say.
Yeah. And then there's also times when, like, I don't know if it's the wrong thing to say, but something you might find funny and you mention it and another person's just like, that's not funny. And I'm like, well, I'm sorry you're offended.
Well, I say usually in
Yeah.
those moments I'm
Yeah.
like, be offended.
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
care.
That's not funny.
I don't care about your feelings.
Yeah.
Well, if it's a joke, yeah, I don't.
Yeah.
It's funny. It's supposed to be.
Just laugh.
Just
and
laugh.
Get over it.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's it.
I told my mom that she wasn't dependable once, and I regret that. Now, there's a lot that goes into it that
I know.
I'm not going to get into on the
Yeah,
show.
yeah.
Because it's personal and private. But when I said it, I was hurt, and my kids were hurt, and I don't think she hurt intentionally, but I was pissed, and I wanted to hurt back, so I said that, and it was I shouldn't have said it.
Did you say it?
I apologize for it later.
Did
but-
you willingly say it knowing it was going to hurt her?
Oh yeah.
Okay, so it was
Yeah.
part of it. It was.
I knew
spiteful.
it would get my point across.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So
It's funny because I'm trying to think of I'm not in a name drop, but I would say a woman I was in a previous relationship with. Definitely things were probably said towards the end that I definitely meant. But I mean, who doesn't have a relationship where
Yeah.
I don't know. There's a difference between bearing your heart to somebody and getting it off your chest and being on the same page than when you bare your heart to somebody, get it off your chest, and you realize you're not on the same page. And I think that when that writing is on the wall, it kind of reveals a little bit more of, okay, I shouldn't be afraid to say this, thinking it's going to either hurt your feelings or it's going to lead to one thing or another. But that's exactly why it needs to be said, because it's not like you're intentionally trying to hurt the person as much as you are trying to resolve the issue at hand that won't be resolved.
Yeah.
Because you're kind of beating around the bush. And I think in some ways, because that's the other thing too, is I think I learned very early on, oddly, and not from anything like a particular incident with family or friends or anything, but I learned really early on that, you have the whole sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me.
Yeah.
And yeah, I do adhere to that. I think that's completely true. But there is something to be said for your loved ones and your close friends that when you say certain things, they can cut deep. And tact is a very useful skill to have. And I think I learned early on that, there are things that can be said that are not as easy to mend.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
When you say them. And so you have to be very tactful about how you say certain things. Because, everybody can, when you're a kid and you're upset, it's like everybody's probably lashed out and been like, I hate you, so I'll kill you. And it's like, you don't really mean you're going to kill somebody.
I don't know that I've ever told my parents I was going to kill them.
No, I didn't say parents. It's been other people. I've said that to other kids on the playground. I'm going to kill you.
I don't think I ever told another kid. I tell you all, I'm going to kill you all. But that's about as
I know,
far as
and
I
I'm
remember.
hurt by it.
We know you mean it, so we don't care.
Yeah. We just know you're waiting for the right
I
moment.
think also knowing when to just agree to disagree, because sometimes, it's just
Feudal.
you say things.
What the? I just noticed she got in the trash.
Oh, my
I just
goodness.
noticed. My damn
Well,
dog is in here just chomping on trash.
Might be a good time to end the show.
Oh my God!
Don't know what the hell that is. It's like a paper towel.
Gosh.
Oh gosh. Anyway, I'm sorry, kids.
No, I was just saying, you're talking about having tact. I think that's just a good.
I didn't have any there.
No, I just meant as far as like when you disagree with someone, and sometimes, when things get heated or whatever, and you say something you don't mean to. Sometimes it's just knowing. It's like, look, they're not going to like agree with what me or what I say. Is like just knowing that's like that's their opinion or their belief. This is mine. I'm firm in mine, so I'm fine. I know where I stand. I don't need to, get into whatever ridiculous or say something that I can't take back because
and I think
they can't let go. You know?
Agreed, but I also think too that instead of like trying to brush it under the rug, I think sometimes it's best to walk away, stew over it, and think about how you're going to express it.
I'm not saying
forget
brush it
about
under
the
rug
problem
or stand down from your stance. Obviously, it's just knowing to say, look, I'm firm where I am, and that we can just let it go. Because some people can't. Some people just have to. Well, you don't think about it this way. It's like, no, I have thought about it that way.
I still don't agree.
I don't agree.
yeah. But then but again, it's like, and I think maybe Sean can attest to this with regards to like marriage, because you are the only one here that's married. Because there's times where it's like, I remember the old adage that I heard at multiple weddings when I used to film them.
Don't go to bed mad at each other.
Don't go to bed mad at each other.
That doesn't work.
Somebody always says that at a wedding. Any advice for the newly married couple? Don't go to bed angry. Well, any advice that nobody's ever said before?
I would say that's probably an issue that I believe that you shouldn't, but I think sometimes that's to your detriment because the other person doesn't feel that way, then you're just bothering them. And it's like, well, I will be the first one to say, like, we've had moments with each other.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, I didn't mean for you to feel that way from the conversation, so we got to fix this now. And I bugged the crap out of you about it because I want to know that we're good, because that's not something I wanted. I didn't want you to feel that way from the conversation. So it's like, I'm like, it's 2:00 in the morning, and I'm like, are we okay? Are we good? Are we good?
Get this off my chest.
Yeah. I can't go to bed pissed at somebody or worried that someone's pissed at me.
Right.
Because if it was intentional, it's one thing. Then I'm not going to go to bed worrying about it because I'm like, no, I wanted to hurt, so I got my point across. No, it's like, if I didn't mean to, I don't want to go to bed worrying all night that we're not good.
Right.
And it's like, but then on the flip side of that is some people are like, no, I need to sleep on it and I need to chew on this for a while.
Yep.
And then let it, and it's fine. And my wife and I are the exact opposite. We get into a fight or an argument, she walks away and goes the other way. And I'm like, no, don't walk away from this. Like, we need to talk about this now.
Figure it out.
And it's just like, no, I'm going to go to bed. I'm tired of talking about it. And it's like, so we can just argue about it again tomorrow? Like, why don't we fix it now? That's just, I think maybe that's partly just because I'm a man and it's programmed into me to want to fix things and do that.
We want a solution.
Yeah, I want a solution now. And it's like, that's kind of where
the better advice I've heard for couples has typically been, especially from a male perspective, and I heard this from a female. She wrote a book called Understanding Women. So I trusted her. But she just simply said, she's like, she had a conversation with her husband, and her husband politely said, is this a conversation where you want to be heard or a conversation where you want a solution? And she said as soon as he approached it that way and she revealed how she wanted it to be handled, it was perfectly, because there are times where women want a solution. And there are times where women just want to be heard.
Yes.
And they just want to be, know that they're being listened to and their feelings are being taken into account.
Yeah.
And but I also think it comes down to it also in that matter comes down to personal situation, because I think absolutely there are times where it's not just wanting to go to bed, not go to bed mad. I understand the sentiment. I get what it is. I think the overall sentiment and the meaning behind that is don't hold grudges. Like, don't sit there and stew on something to the point where you're going to remember this several days later. I think it's like you need a resolution, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But that may not come in a 24-hour period.
Yeah.
And sometimes I think we've all been in situations. I know there's times where I've gotten home from work, I'm dead tired, and it could be a conversation, a text that you all send, just like with an article link or something. And I'm just like, I just want to put it on silence. I just want to turn everything off. Same with my family. And it's like, I just want to just veg out and not think about anything. And then there's times where it's like, I know I've done that for other people, where it's like I've gotten them on a bad day or maybe a time where they just want to relax and chill, and then they come back to it. They come back to it at a different time when they're ready. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that, because I think a lot of people too, when you get a good night's sleep, you wake up and you think about things in a different light. And it seems like there's a little bit of a I don't know, a weight is a little is lifted. I think prayer helps a lot in certain circumstances where it's like, okay, whether I have already overstepped that bounds and said something I shouldn't have, or whether I'm even thinking about it, it's kind of like, all right, I know I'm angry right now and I need to back off and not say the things that I'm thinking because I know it's more emotional than it is, again, tactful. But I don't know. It's interesting because I think people handle it differently, and it's not like I think your wife wouldn't want to resolve the issue. She just is probably emotionally drained and is like, I don't want to deal with this right now.
Yeah,
and it's probably like, okay, as long as we can table it, but we got to come back to it at some point.
Yeah,
because you want it resolved.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, it's funny. I don't lay awake at night mad at somebody. Like I can usually let things go.
Yeah.
Like it takes a lot to piss me off, and once you've done it, it's like, okay, you pissed me off. And that's
Right.
but that's it. It's
Right.
like, okay, that's fine. You'll piss me off again another day too. It doesn't mean our friendship or marriage or whatever has to end over it.
Right.
But it's like I do lay awake and worry about how I've hurt or bothered or offended somebody.
Yeah.
If it's something where it's kind of like, well, you shouldn't be offended by that. That's just an opinion or whatever, then that's one thing. I can kind of ease my way out of that and forget about it because you have yours and I have mine.
Right.
But if it's something that I genuinely said something that hurt somebody and it wasn't my intention, then I dwell on that for
Yeah.
a long time.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to hurt anybody with anything that I say.
Right.
And that's just, I mean, sometimes you have to. But that's
Well, yeah, and I think
different
even
topic.
regarding this topic, I was like, I don't think that there are times where tough things need to be said. I mean, that's tough love, but there's nothing wrong with that. It's just that sometimes it's best to say them in a more tactful way than to just bear it all and not, she knows what time it is.
she does.
She knows it's.
I'm just trying to keep her from jumping this time.
Yeah.
It's not working.
It's funny because
not
I like
working.
her head keeps bobbing up like I'm gonna get up there.
She's gonna. There we go.
There it is. Oh, I'm
Keith
sorry.
lets her. I don't let her get up there.
Yeah.
Look at her.
Oh, she wants to be on.
She wants to be on the
She
spotlight.
said,
Look
"Lower
at
that down so that I can get to it."
What do you got to say?
She's ready to be on there. Alrighty, guys. I think that's gonna do it for this episode. Right there at the bottom of your all screen is all of our social media. Like, share, subscribe. We thank you all for all the love. Red Moon Book, Red Moon Tweet, and Red Moon Pics on Instagram. Just search for Red Moon Productions on YouTube, and you'll find all of our episodes, all of our past reviews right there on there. You can visit our website, redmoonproductions.com. We got all the old reviews on there,
All of them.
even the ones without video.
All of them.
Good stuff. Alrighty, guys. Thank you all so much for tuning in. Again, want to reiterate,
No
not
show.
here next week. We are not here, so
We won't be here because Brandon has abandoned us.
I have. I said one too many things, and now I'm taking the heat for it. But no, we will not have a show next week, so we will be back the week after, which will be the first week in... No, next week is the first week of August, isn't it? Yeah, so we'll be back the second week of August. So, we're going to get ready for our last
right.
bit of our summer. I think Bullet Train's coming out that week.
Oh yeah.
So I think we'll be
Yes.
ready for Bullet Train.
I'm excited about that
Transit.
one.
Yeah, there wasn't any major releases this weekend, so it kind of worked out for us.
Yeah, I think we're still planning on probably watching The Gray Man on Netflix.
Yeah, Netflix, yeah.
That's already out, yeah.
It's out. Yeah.
Or, it's out.
I haven't
It's
watched
out.
it yet, but
Ryan
I'm going to.
Gosling and who else is
Chris
in it?
Evans.
Chris Evans.
Chris Evans.
Russo
Yeah.
brothers.
Ooh,
Oh, there we
that's-
go.
yeah,
We
all
just
right.
talked
We
about
just talked
them,
about
yeah.
them. So we'll give them a try. But as always, you can email us if you have any questions, comments, concerns, criticisms.
Yeah.
Right there at the bottom of your screen, RMPodcast at redmoonproductions.com. Mm-hmm. Did you hear that, Keith?
Yeah, I heard
Repeat
it.
If you heard it, repeat it.
It's your job.
You didn't tell me what to do. RM Podcast at redmoonproductions.com.
It was beautiful.
Yeah.
It always is.
That
It's
just
always
got
beautiful.
me wet. No, like I'm sweating.
Oh, that wet.
Yeah, that kind of
Okay,
wet.
That kind of wet.
Yeah,
Until next time.
I'm wet.
I'm one of your hosts, Brandon Davidson, alongside our normal new host,
Sean Sebastian.
Ed. Oh man, the text is way
I
off
was-
the screen.
I was waiting.
I just realized that.
Oh, man. Oh, man. There she
Oh,
is.
it's way off. It's
There she
terrible.
is.
I gotta fix that graphic. Oh, it fixed
We
itself.
hope you enjoyed this week's episode. For more reviews, previous podcast shows, and everything Red Moon, visit our website, redmoonproductions.com. You can also like us on Facebook or follow us on Twitter by searching for Red Moon Productions, LLC. We'll see you at the movies.